Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be doing a video on the best plants to use in a humid vivarium. Majority of the information I've gotten for this video today is actually after coming from the files section of Reptile and Amphibian Bioactive Setups, which is a Facebook group. It's an absolutely brilliant Facebook group if you're going to be setting up bioactive yourself. You can talk to others who've done it before, you can get all your information and advice. I would very much suggest that you go there if you've any questions to do with bioactives. Special thank you to Ron Eddy, whose research into toxic and safe plants for reptiles is the main thing that I was using to make this video. So the first plant we're going to talk about is a chorus. So just keep in mind I am not great at pronouncing things, I'm not quite sure how to, and so I've put them on the screen just so there's no confusion. This is a genus of rushes that has a range of members and they tend to do well in damp and wet setups. These tend to do best in full to partial sunlight and tend to get roughly half a foot to a foot in size. African violets are an attractive flowering plant. They're good for high amounts of light and humidity, but you have to avoid spraying the leaves directly as this can damage the plant. Bromeliads are another species of reptile-safe plant. They can be extremely useful, especially in rainforest and similar setups. And for smaller snakes or lizards that might be in a setup with these, they like to hide inside the little crevices between the leaves and between the petals. These definitely do best in a humid setup, preferring roughly 60% humidity. Busy Lizzie comes in two types. There's a commonly available house and bedding plant, and then there's a more exotic tropical species. Both of these can be used in terrariums and vivariums. They are tolerant of fairly low light, but they need moist soil. They're one of the few plants, along with the African violets I already mentioned, that can flower very easily in vivarium conditions. There are a massive amount of ferns available. Practically every single fern that you are likely to encounter for sale will be reptile safe. The individual needs of species to species may vary, but if you just look into the specific fern that you're finding, you'll know whether or not it has different lighting requirements or water requirements, but very, very likely it is reptile safe. Ferns are honestly one of my favourite things to have in a reptile enclosure because I just like the fact that they're very leafy, they're very green, they're not difficult to keep, and my reptiles tend to like destroying them or going under them and around them or hiding inside them. As a general rule, ferns benefit from a slightly acidic, moisture-retaining, well-drained soil, good light and a humid atmosphere. Nerve plant is a low-growing, attractive plant that's used mainly in tropical vivaria. It needs a humidity of over 50% and mainly does well at 16 to 26 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 60 to 80 Fahrenheit. This species does better with filtered or indirect sunlight rather than a really intense light, so if this one was planted slightly underneath another plant, it would do best. There are over 30,000 different species of orchid. As such, it's pretty difficult to give a general description of what they would need. Their needs do vary species to species. Most of the available species you're going to come across, however, are going to be tropical or subtropical. Most tropical orchids like 60 to 80% humidity and do best with 12 to 14 hours of light in the day. Prayer plants are a low-growing, spreading plant that thrive best when provided with warm and damp conditions, like the forest floor that they're originally found on. The name prayer plant comes from their leaves folding in half during the night, as if it was two hands praying. These are a fairly easy plant to grow in a vivarium, and their nice stripes and colours actually make them a very attractive plant to add to your group. Cella Genella is a moss-like plant that does well in fairly humid conditions. It does best in a temperature range of 10 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 50 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and some types of this plant can handle temperatures as low as 40 Fahrenheit or 4.5 degrees Celsius. This type of plant prefers bright but indirect light. There are about 700 varieties of Cella Genella, and they're often referred to as spike moss. Different species of Cella Genella can grow to different sizes, varying from half an inch in height to about 9 inches tall and wide, so just keep this in mind when you're trying to figure out which species you want to use in your viv. And then the very last plant for this video is Tolumia. Tolumia is sometimes known as the pick-a-back plant. This plant does best in cool and humid tanks. New plantlets are formed in the angle of the leaves, hence the name, and it forms a slowly spreading clump. Aim to keep about 50% humidity around this plant and make sure that it stays in between roughly 10 to 24 Celsius or 50 to 75 Fahrenheit. So that's it for this video. I hope it was useful to someone. Once again, thank you to Reptile and Amphibian Bioactive Setups on Facebook, and Ron Eddy, thank you very much for letting me use your files to do my plant research. If this video is well received, I'll probably try and make a few more like it in future, so please let me know what you think, and thank you very much for watching.